Hey, everybody, we want to welcome you to Heart with Dan and Angela. It's Thursday.
And Kerry Kaye
And
as well.
our special guest, Kerry Kaye, she joins us from time to time. And we wanted to talk about an important subject tonight. I think it's important. You know, I watched my mother suffer through schizophrenia within the organization. And I watched my dad completely deteriorate in there with depression and negativity. And I didn't know why at the time. You know, I didn't know why because I was in it. I was in those belief systems. We were waiting for the world to end and all this sort of thing. But I watched my mother completely deteriorate. And I think I've got an idea of why that was, but I just want to throw that out tonight. You know, why is there so much mental illness, especially in the Jehovah's Witnesses? I think Angela said that it's one of the highest.
Yeah,
What is it?
the Jehovah's Witness organization this is a fact. It's got the highest level of mental illness than all of the other religions of the world.
Wow.
And so that's long been known. And I think it's actually probably getting worse.
Yeah. So we just wanted to kick that around tonight. You know, why is there so much mental illness in there? Can it be avoided? Yeah, I just want to say I just want to throw this out, I guess, in the beginning it was the mass amount of fear that the organization put on my mother that shut off some part of her brain, and she just went into panic mode. She was a paranoid schizophrenic, and I mean, I was bolting the doors shut and the windows shut with screwdriver with screws, and doing everything she wanted me to do so she could feel safe. Now, I'm not going to blame it all on the organization, but what I do want to say was when she died, she looked me in the eye and she said, "Jehovah's going to kill me. Jehovah's going to kill me," and that really saddened me. And my dad died the same way. He said, "I failed to raise you kids in the mental regulating of Jehovah. I was a failure." And he moved into depression and he never came out. My dad stopped talking. It wasn't long after, got pancreatic cancer and died, and it was sad. So they were talking about it last week on the six screens. They were mentioning it. So I just want to throw it out to you. Do you guys have some ideas of maybe why a person would maybe somewhat normal, joins up this organization or whatever organization, and why they would maybe be prone to have a split mind or move into negativity or evil or negativity? They're both the same, I guess,
or become a victim because of the severity of it all and not be able to find their way clear of that constant thinking about it. Because to me, being a victim is kind of staying in the constant mind of everything negative. It's the past and dwelling on it, or the fears that you have been taught and told, and you can't get it out of your mind, or you believe it so much that you're not even about to go working at getting it out of your mind because you believe it to be true. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Religions, teach the opposite. They say when you see your deliverance, you rejoice, but I didn't see any rejoicing in my family. They were overtaken by, I don't know what you'd call a spirit of gloom and doom, but somehow they were drawn into it through the studies they had, through the pictures. You saw God destroying everybody, who didn't know his name. And, Jesus said it was done unto you believe. So I just want to throw that out there. What does that mean? It's done unto you as you believe,
Yeah, because it became so real. I mean, even just in my church too, the Worldwide Church of God and yours, a person was hired in the media department to depict these horrible pictures of these horrible situations with hail and nukes and your people just running in fear and screaming, and these horrible pictures that you can't, it's like searing into your mind. So it's extremely real, very real. And like just tonight, I was talking about how Dan and I want to do a conference and event center, and my mother-in-law, who's Seventh-day Adventist, there's like, oh, there's no point in doing that, the in the next world, in the kingdom, forget all that, this world's done. And I'm like, no, that's like, I don't know, to me that's like beginning to get busy dying, instead of get busy living. And it's just this gloom and doom way of looking at things, like there's no sense in doing anything good, it's too late. So like, no.
Yeah, exactly. So Kerry, so what would you say You did. I want to use you as an
Good
example.
idea.
You became an artist. You've done some great things. You seem healthy and whole, happy. You travel. You do lots of cool stuff. You don't seem like you live in fear. And you were immersed in the same thing we are. You were a Jehovah's Witness, and but somehow it didn't take you down. So I just want to ask, what was it you did to where you didn't have the same result as my mother? Did you educate yourself? Did you get busy doing something else? What did you do? Or what were some of the things you did to escape or to get this stuff out of your head? And I don't know if you'd call it rewrite it or override it or what you did, but could you kind of shed some light on that?
Like, how'd you get out of the victim mode even?
How did I get out of the victim mode? Well, first of all, you guys know that I
A
did.
little ringing or echo for something. I don't know what it is.
I don't either, Dan. I don't know if we could do anything.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Kind of
It just
echo.
ringing a little bit. That's okay.
Is there ringing? Can you hear me now?
It's kind of a weird sound. Anyway,
Go ahead.
it's not
It'll be
that bad.
fine.
We
It'll
can
be
even
fine.
understand you at least.
Can you hear me? Testing.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Okay, well, I did suffer from depression. It is the screen kind of bouncing, because maybe what I could do is turn off my camera and maybe just go through my
It's not really bouncing. Just
it's not, is it?
No, not on.
Okay.
Just ringing a little bit.
Yeah.
But not now. It sounds better.
Yeah, it does sound better.
Okay, it sounds better now. Okay, I did go through a period of depression because I felt like it was I was displeasing to our creator because I wasn't doing what I was being told. So I did suffer a very bad bout of depression, and you guys know my story. Those who have heard me say I suffered a near-death experience. But after that, well, during that experience, it changed me because I stopped living in the fear mode anymore. Because, okay, how do I explain this? I basically took my power back. And going through that experience made me realize that when you're almost at death, you don't fear it anymore when you basically meet your maker, so to speak. So you're not living in like I was telling you guys earlier, in the human senses, so to speak. You're more or less, you're living in your God power, is what I was explaining to you guys. So when you're living in your God power, evil only exists when we ourselves give it power. So many people use personal power and not the God power. Personal power uses our senses, whereas the truth or the God power, we use our intuition. When I went through my experience, I started to rely on that intuition, and I let it move me. I let it direct me, and it brought me more happiness and less fear and no more guilt. And I let that move my life from that moment forward. And whatever anybody else was saying, you should do this or you should do that. Of course, you think of moral and ethics and such, right and wrong. But as far as what the organization would put on you, you're living a different life because you're living by intuition and not by God, by man's commands, so to speak.
Yeah, and
I just want to break that down a little
Yeah,
bit.
me too.
Intuition. So I wrote down a few things, and you could tell me if these are all similar. So intuition would be your gut or your heart. Would that be?
Yeah, you could translate that as your heart.
Still small voice.
Yeah,
But it's not. But it's like
that.
How did you know to trust it? Was it at the near death? Because a lot of people would say, "Well, where's this place?" So was it your near death that pushed you out of the I'm just pleasing this external God, and I'm like this? But how did you? What do you think pushed you into I'm going to trust myself instead of everything else out there? What do you think was a catalyst to saying, how did you know to go there? You know what I mean? Just to, like, mine was kind of a trail where I was chasing after everything. And then I finally went to the monastery and I just got quiet. And I just said, I just need to shut up and sit here. And then I started getting direction, some kind of weird direction. So I was wondering what
It
that
was kind of like a download of information, kind of. I was in a state of prayer and meditation, and I had already seen the cloud, so to speak, and I knew that I could go if I wanted to, but I didn't want to, and I saw myself basically go back into my body. And then I had this wonderful, beautiful experience where I realized that I had nothing to fear. There was this beautiful after life that I knew was going to be there for me because I had a glimpse of it. And from that moment forward, I went, I want to be here in the now, and I want to experience my life with my children now. And that gift I was given from Jehovah has stayed with me to this day.
Amen.
Wow.
And I call it the God power. It's your intuition.
I like it.
That subtle, like when you're like, all of a sudden you feel like you're in danger, you feel you're in danger, and your gut says sprint, move away, and then all of a sudden you realize there was a car coming.
Yeah.
Your intuition. That's what I'm talking about. That's the God power.
Your intuition
that has nothing.
Does
nothing to do with your sight, your hearing, your taste. It's that inner movement that moves you. And in my particular experience, I was fortunate enough to have an inner connection with it when I was in that near death, and when I was coming out of that near death experience, coming back to life.
Yeah.
And so I think answered your question.
I think when you have a real personal experience with something other than our five senses, who we think we are, everything that we think we are, and everything that we've been taught, which is really our ego in a way, because it's everything we've been programmed to believe. But when you experience the reality of what's beyond this life, and you grab hold of it, I don't think you could ever be the same again. What's really real, because we all so much feel that this is all there is. I am just my body. I'm just my experiences. I'm just who they say I am. I'm my education. I'm the gathering of all the things that I've learned in all my studies and reading and program from my parents and churches and all that. But outside of that, who am I? And those people that have this near-death experience, they go outside of that basic, what we think we are, and see the reality of something much greater, something much grander, something more inclusive of everyone and much more real. And I believe that it is real, and much more than this is real, that we think is real. I really believe that. So you were able to come out of the victim mode and fear mode and all that you've been taught, because of the reality of what you experienced was so real. You knew that it was real, and you have not been able to let go of it since. Thank God. What a gift. It really is a gift. I mean, I just wish we could all experience that. I wonder why God doesn't allow all of us to experience that. You know what I mean? Maybe we wouldn't be victims anymore,
I'm glad I experienced it. It gave me a basis to know that I knew for my inner self and my soul that of what I needed to do in this life. And I knew that I needed to raise my children to be good human beings. That was my number one job. So I did everything in my power to make that happen. I wanted them to have an education. I wanted them to have good schooling, and to do the things that we didn't get to do, like Christmas and birthdays and all that stuff. With balance, of course, with balance. But when you have doctrines that are pushing in the way and trying to redirect you, you can't go down that path where you're following what's in your heart, or your intuition, what's in your heart and what feels right to you. You know what's right for your child. You know what's going to make them sad or what's going to make them happy as a mother, because their DNA, they're part of you. You know it is going to harm them. Mama bear comes and says no. So I would also liken intuition to that. Women have that God power when they're raising their children. So I knew what my job was and I went with it. And I'm very glad I did. Now, the victimization, sure, I missed out on a lot of things. Yeah, I could get upset about it. And there was a time where I was bitter. I had to work through that though. And I did. I had to work through it and go, okay, dwelling on the toxicity of all that is only going to make me unhealthy and sad and upset. And it's going to make me more depressed. I need to stop that. So I'll be like, change your mindset. Say, I am going to be positive. I'm going to bring positivity into my life, and I'm going to leave the negativity and the evilness at the door. And when you do that, it will flee you. And that's what I experienced.
Yeah. Resist the devil and he'll flee from you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I want to
it's
just
true.
say something too, that, this intuition, I just want to say, I know for me and probably Angela and everybody, it takes time, because too bad for us, but we're dependent on an organization that gave us everything we needed. It was like being bottle fed. I mean, every time we went to the Kingdom Hall, they told us, hey, it's tomorrow, it's over, just hang on there. And we didn't really have to take responsibility at the level we do when we leave religion or leave, the Jehovah's Witnesses. So I think it takes time to trust your intuition, and you make mistakes. And I just want to say that I know I made a lot of mistakes. I mean, yes, a mother has great intuition with kids, and we have intuition with people, and we know good people and bad people. But I think it's okay to make some mistakes, because we're on our own now. We're on our own. We're going to make some bad investments. We're going to, we're going to maybe get caught up with some people we shouldn't have got caught up with, and think, how do I put it in reverse and get out of here?
Shoot, Dan and I still come up with people in our lives that we need to put in reverse. And,
Yeah.
get out of
But
it.
I think we're coming. Yeah. But I think we're coming from total 100% dependency, like a crutch, to being on our own feet. And it's a little wobbly. So I just wanted to say that.
Yes, can I say something about, I hate to always bring this up all the time, but we had a guy when we were on one of these meetings, and he was on, we were doing like a four people Zoom meeting, I think it was. And we're discussing the fact that I was concerned that little scripture you guys have in the Jehovah's Witness faith, that's worse than everyone else's. It says that the heart is treacherous and desperate, and who can know it? And while I was discussing it, he looked it up on the internet, because I said, I don't think that it means that. I have a funny feeling that that's mistranslated. So he looked it up, and sure enough, badly mistranslated. And then I studied after that how it all happened. And it just kind of went where the Catholic Church twisted a little, and then everybody just kept taking it from there, taking the original that they translated it to and taking it from there. And actually the real meaning of it, the genuine original, I think is Hebrew. And I don't think it was Greek. I think it was Hebrew, meaning is that the heart is very, very deep. Who can know it?
Mhm.
And so, God is deep. And so I know I keep
Very deep,
stating
who
this,
can know it, not treacherous and desperate.
but that's the heart. So we were taught not to trust our hearts because they're treacherous and desperate. But to me, that is the intuition. And so, it's like you have an intuition to call your son one day, and you just so happen to call, and he's having a very bad day, and he tells all about it. How did you know to call? But that's intuition. It's like God ideas that you trust is from God. Like you wake up in the morning and say, God, what would you have me to do today? Where would you have me to go? Who would you have me to speak to? What would you have me to say? And what's in the best and highest for everyone involved? And and then you just kind of wait, and ideas pop in your head. And then you're like, oh yeah, I should follow up on that. I had that the other day. I was like, Lord, what would you have me to do today? It was Sunday morning. And all of a sudden it's like, he kept telling me, this certain church. And I was thinking maybe it was one I'd never been to today. So I got on the internet, I searched out, oh, it's that place we've been to a bunch of times, you know, a little while back. And so I'm like, I think that we're supposed to go there today, Dan. So we got all ready to go and went down there, and they were having a graduation of all their graduates that day at the church. And so this lady, she was walking down the hall towards us, and I knew her. But she was looking away, like, I don't want to talk to you people. But I forced it. And I said, hey, how are you doing? And all of a sudden she tells us this horrible story about what's going on. And we ended up talking to her for like, I don't know, 45 minutes about her husband having a stroke and all that they're going through and how she's been looking at it. And wow, did we ever have a lot to talk about with all regard to all of that, and encouraging her to not give up because he's in that healing phase, you know. And anyway, it was so meant that we were there. No question about it. And from there, everywhere we went, it was like synchronistic. But just by following one idea of an intuition, I'm going to call it, it was an idea. It's just an idea. It's an intuition. You just trust it. It's small, but you go in faith. I always just say, go in faith with it. Just go in faith. So I got myself dressed and I went. I knew we were supposed to be there. Then I got a note from somebody else in the class we used to be in saying that we miss you guys. Please come back. And, you know, me and Dan will never be in any church, but we go and we'll, you know, go as long as we're wanted. And then when we finally don't feel wanted anymore, we move on. And that in this church, this is kind of like how it is. But they always are, God always directs. And I love that. So it's really not hard. We don't have to make it hard, but we've been brainwashed to believe that our hearts are treacherous and desperate and evil. Well, guess what? Hello, they're not. We can trust them. And that was a dirty trick. And I say we pluck that one right out and burn it, because that idea is a lie, and we can trust our hearts, which is our ideas and our intuition, and just follow those little ideas and go with it and see what happens. That's what I did. And it was fun. It's just fun.
You might learn something new.
Yeah.
You know?
That's right. That's right. We share things. So I got a question. I'm just going to throw out a little curveball.
All right. What is it?
And you guys tell me what you think.
Okay.
Where do you go? Here was my search. I got to find absolute truth again. What would you say to somebody going out, you know, because you were in the truth, you had the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You know, you had all the answers. So when you leave, there must be that next place where all the answers are, everything. They got the truth, whatever it is, spirituality, religion. Do you guys have any advice for somebody that's coming out of the witnesses that's been so full of knowing and says, okay, I realize this isn't the truth, but by God, you know, I'm going to find it. Would you have any advice for somebody just going out into the world on maybe, you know, how to just be careful, you know, as they're in their search? I know me and Angela went to like 200 churches, and we didn't hate them. There was a lot of good people there, but I couldn't find that absolute truth. A lot of spirituality I went into. And do you guys have any advice on that you would give somebody that's coming out, you know?
Like where to go, Dan?
Or no,
what?
not where to go, like take it slow, you know, due diligence, you know, maybe just really research, you know, or, you know, because I think that's a normal response. I've known when people come out of like a cult like Jehovah's Witnesses, you really do sort of have a hunger. Either you throw it all away and you hate God, or, you know, whatever. But I think a lot of people go out and they want that truth again. And
You know, when they don't find it, it's discouraging, or it's like fitting right. Well, can I just share what you did? Well, Dan went to so many churches, and then at some point, and I think we were married for maybe say 7 years, maybe. So he just got in this funk where it's like, okay, you know what, I'm done with all trying, and I'm just going to go in this room and I'm going to sit. I have nothing to say. I have nothing more that I want to research right now. I just want to sit in the silence. He was deeply led to sit in the silence and just be with God. And boy, did a lot get downloaded in his heart and his mind. He was a changed man from doing that. And I think that we always want to find everything on the outside, when actually where we're going to find a lot of direction and healing and intuition and direction and who we are and what's really going on, it's all going to be found within. And just by sitting in silence, which it seems, or just being with God and just see what he brings in your mind even, just that, ideas did come into your mind.
Yeah.
And by sitting, something popped into his mind, and due to that thing that popped into his mind, just turned us completely around in our financial situation, because it was '08 when everything kind of crashed.
That was a lot of
And,
years down the road too, I want to just say, so.
But that's what you did.
Yeah.
And that changed everything. He's not the same man anymore because of that sitting in the silence.
And what do you think, Kerry? Did you have that hunger for that absolute truth when you left? Like, I gotta find it, like going crazy
I-
looking for it?
I was voracious for knowledge. I was reading everything that I could read. And when something would quench that thirst, it was like it satisfied that hunger. There's two types of knowledge. There's genuine and false. And what I found was the genuine comes from the interior, and the false is going to be the exterior, anything that's thrown at you. So I found that going within, like Angela was saying, like what you did, Dan, I think that's a good way to do it. Just sit with yourself and see what feels right to you in your heart and your mind and your soul. Because the false is going to give you a negative vibration. The positive is going to give you a positive vibration within you. And basically you'll know, because it stands the test of time. Other people will relate to it too. And they'll be, that's the path. Now, a lot of people will go down different paths to lead right back to themselves. And then they find the master within, or they'll find that sitting with themselves, that the God power will answer them, Jehovah, or with their God concept, it will steer them in the right direction. Sometimes they're going to make mistakes, but mostly you're going to learn something from that. And then you're going to move on. But nobody is going to go down this exact same path. They're going to want to go investigate this thing and that thing and this thing over here and those people shouting over there. That's okay. Go investigate it and then come back and sit with it. And, sometimes some people are going to be right. Some people are going to be wrong. And sometimes you're going to think just like the people who were right and people who were wrong. And it's all a learning experience. It molds us. And I think that being human is experiencing those things and learning what is good and what is wrong. But ultimately, if it feels good and it heals you, you're in the right direction.
Yeah.
So
we've been taught the opposite, that we should not do those things that you just said there. We shouldn't go out and explore this, that, study to our heart's content, read whatever books you are feeling led to read, all that.
That's right.
But that's actually what's brought Dan and I to the most joy. And, and maybe sometime you come to this point where I'm just done with all of that. And I just want to sit and be, and that goes even deeper. That's nothing wrong with that either. And we're taught that, that's the workshop of the devil. Lots of people believe that. That's such bullshit. Sorry. But, it is such bull. And the truth is that God sorts things in that time of peace and quiet. If you want to just go take a walk and do that, instead of sitting, if that scares you to sit, just go take a walk in nature and then sit and watch the river. It'll be the same effect, okay? And God sorts things. He rearranges things. He makes things make sense. He clarifies through that time of quiet. Just being in nature. So if that's what you could do, I love the other night we opened up all the sliding glass doors and just sat in the quiet. I love even have a fire going, but it's not that time of year. But what we heard is the birds chirping and the duck across the river doing all this, that, and the other, and just all the night sounds and the breeze and everything that goes on in the night. It's motorcycle roaring across somewhere down the lower road. And I just loved it all. It's like, this is summer. This is so great. And I just felt so at one with God, so at one with nature, and so at one. And, that's when God starts to do this magic work. It's magic. And he makes things come alive and ideas pop in your head. And this fact that this is wrong is very clear to you. He just clarifies things. And that is, to me, the most healing. And yet we're taught that we shouldn't do that, that's the workshop of the devil. We shouldn't sit idle. Now, and my mother, she taught me, like, if you're sitting down, it's like it's a sin. It's like You should be working. You should be doing something. Angela, get me a bottle. Angela, get me a diaper. Angela, you go do this. Angela, you go do that. If I'm sitting down and start to look at something, oh, you're obviously available. Okay, can you go do this? Can you go clean that? Could you go? Oh, it's like thou shalt not sit. Thou shalt not do that as if that's a sin. I'm not kidding. I'm not even kidding. And so that's been a challenge for me. But now I love it. I love it. And anyway, we should not feel guilty for that. And we should not allow the teachings that we've been trained to believe to be true, because actually they're not true. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very good for us. We need it badly.
That's where when you sit in that quiet, in those meditative moments. For me, a lot of my meditative moments in the afternoon or such, but sometimes it's right before I go to sleep at night, or if I wake up in the middle of the night, or wake up early in the morning. I just lay there and I meditate. And then if I have questions or something's on my mind or, weighing on my heart, I leave it there and I'll get an answer, maybe in a day, maybe in a couple days, or it will reveal itself, or I'll pick up something and I'll start reading and doing some studies and the answer comes. And it's not being anxious over it all too. Just, we live in a society where we all have to have the answers now. We need to like sit back and be a little bit more and just let it flow, just like a river. You can't fight the river. You have to go with it. You just let it flow and enjoy those moments of quiet because that's actually really healthy for you too.
Would you say it's okay not to know?
Pardon?
Would you say it's okay not to know everything?
Yes.
That's one thing we learned, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's okay not to know. It was Solomon who said there's nothing new under the sun. So we know the answers are there. It's just maybe we're not meant to know all the answers.
Yeah.
Our time.
We talked about there being much suffering, with much knowing, that's not the exact wording, but it meant that,
It's like I was telling people on the 6 screens the other night. I said, a lot of people have asked me, what's your path? What's your, what were the things that led up to you? I said, it won't help you. And I didn't mean that in an arrogant way. I just said that was my path. If I told you my path, it would scare you. Because it's my path, not because it's elevated or more unique or special. But I just said, a lot of people, I felt like Hiram Abiff, give me what you have, so I'm like, I'm sorry. It's like the oil, right? The virgins, give me your oil. And you've got to make, we've heard that in the witnesses, you've got to make the truth your own. And you really do.
Good point.
You got to carve it out. You got to seek it. You got to want it. It's like I told this one guy, what do you want to do? Drink? Or do you want to know truth? What do you want to do? Do you want to get drunk every night? Get drunk every night. But if you want to know truth, you've got to dig in. You got to open some books. You got to seek. You got to ask the Spirit, ask God, ask whoever. And you got to start seeking. But if you're not even seeking, I can't help you. I can't share anything. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that's so true. I'm agreeing with you. It's there. Everybody's path is completely different. I remember somebody saying it's tailored to the individual.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful gift, the cosmic Jehovah. Your path, your spiritual journey is tailored to you personally. You can't walk mine. I can't walk yours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But my journey is mine.
Yeah. And Kerry,
I wouldn't want people to go through some of the things that I've had to go through. But I'm here and I'm able to talk about things, so I'm grateful. I'm grateful I had that experience, but do I want to go through it again? Hell no.
Yeah, right. It's like it made you
painful.
it made you the tender, compassionate person that you are. There was a lot of good that was gleaned from it. But we're the product of every book we've read, every class we've taken, every prayer, every meditation, everything we chose to go to listen to because we thought it would help us. That was our little, journey, and we built it based on what we chose, on the choices that we chose. And so to be able to just take all of that, which is accumulated over many days, many moments of every day, these choices, I can't just take all of that and just give it to somebody. As much as they want you to be able to just give me what you got, give me your oil, right? Give me, like, I can't. This is something that was built. It's brick upon brick, layer upon layer upon layer, and it's not something you can just give away. And sometimes you wish you could, but then again, that they wouldn't be the person that they're meant to be without it being real for them. It's got to be real for them. They've got to build it and make it make sense bit by bit, because one truth builds on another truth, you can't understand that truth until you've understood this first truth. You got to understand that one first before you can, and it's a step ladder. You can't give it away. So we'll have some victims that get mad about that. It's like, just fix me. I remember, who was it, that Scott M. Peck, and when he was at the end of his career getting towards, and this lady just said, look, after 30 years, I've been seeing you. I just want you to fix me. Okay, just fix me. And he's like, oh my gosh, we are done. Because you have to do the work, girl. And all these years, I thought you were taking my advice and you were using it and putting it to practice. And no, I just want you to fix me. And he's like, okay, we're done. If you're not going to do the work, we're done. And he never would take another patient after that unless they're willing to work on themselves seriously. Or he would, if you're not willing to put in the work, I'm not taking you on. And that was he stuck to that. So that's an amazing psychologist, that guy. I really loved him a lot. But a lot of people are starting to, Dan and I are noticing it happening more and more, where they're saying that we don't want to do programming anymore that discusses the victim. The different sob stories, and it's just not doing any good. We're just done with that. It just suddenly everybody's starting to get in this mode. I'm noticing. It's interesting. So I guess God must be leading us into saying, okay, guys, we're done with the story now. We got to let go of it, and we've got to move on. And what, like Dan's mentor said, okay, Dan, I hear you. I hear you. I have compassion, but do you want to get well? And if you don't, then I don't know what to tell you, but if you do, then let's get started. And you got to put away some of these, the rehashing of this negativity of the past. And we got to, at some point, we're become willing to move on.
I want to just say something about that, because I was starting to fall in love with my negative story. I could not wait to tell somebody about what happened to me as a Jehovah's Witness. I was in big groups and inner child journeys, and boy, I get to tell my story unlike anybody else's.
Mine's worse.
Yeah, and I got in this big group, about 300 people, and I'm telling you, I didn't have a story. I didn't get raped by my dad. I didn't get all this abuse. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I stopped telling my story after that. And that lady tried to tell me that. She's like, Dan, you could stay in your story the rest of your life and pull that train with you the rest of your life. And this lady was very wealthy. And she's like, because I was kind of like, how'd you get so wealthy? Well, we re-educated ourselves. We moved out of our doctors. My husband became an anesthesiologist. He started studying more. And now we have a lifestyle we want, but we got busy doing something else.
And by the way, this was an ex-Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
Dan didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
All these years.
She wouldn't tell me.
No.
And she just took me on. But yeah, but what I realized, I'll tell you what I'm finding in the witnesses is a lot of people are falling in love with their story. And guys, it's the hardest thing for me to tell somebody, don't fall in love with your story, your negative story. I'm telling you, they're competing. The victim competes over their story. Well, I got raped. Well, I got trafficked. Well, I got this. Well, I got this, and I have MS. And it's like the only solution is to tell them and look them in the eye, like the lady told me. I feel bad for you, Dan. I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry you went through such hell. I'm sorry your mom was a schizophrenic. I'm sorry your dad, died young. I'm sorry. But she says you will not get well. And, she handed me, and I was mad at my first wife for walking out on me. And I was very angry. And so she says, one of the things you can do if you're still mad at your ex-wife is, why don't we go downstairs? I've got a big mattress and you can take this little baseball bat and beat the hell out of
It
it.
was plastic.
And I was like, okay, I'd love to do that. And so I beat this mattress, down there, and did this and did
Was it
that.
a mattress or a pillow?
And she looked at me, and so she comes down, are you done? This is real lady, real sophisticated. She goes, are you done yet, Dan?
She's the ex-Jehovah's
And I
Witness.
said, yeah, I'm done. And so she sat in front of me and she says, I'm your ex-wife. Can you forgive me? I was 18 when I left you. And I said, yeah, I can forgive you. I was healed, guys. I wasn't mad a day after that. I was healed. But I had to I had to go through that little exercise. But she had been through so much
There's
of
the
that.
camera right here.
She had been through so much of that. I'm looking at the little
I
square.
know.
But that changed my whole life, just that little thing. And so, but nothing hurts me more. My brother just died, my younger brother.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you. And he was a victim. And when you saw him, he would just, you don't know my pain. You don't know what I'm going through.
MS.
And I did, and I knew other people who had it, and he seemed to laugh and have a good time, but he fell in love. I'm not saying all MS people fall in love with their stories. I'm just saying the victim is the most hardest archetype to overcome. And then you got the martyr. I'm dying for the world, But the great thing that I learned from that lady was, I will look you in the eye. And I will say the very same thing. I hear you and I'm sorry, but do you want to get better? And if you don't want to get better, I can't have you around me, because you're an energy field. You're an energy field, and you could be toxic. You know what I mean? And if you're going to tell your story for the next 20 years, then I can't do that either. There was another class we were in. A guy asked us to write down our story. He come down and said, boy, that's a really good story. Big class. Did I tell you that story, Kerry? And the guy had a big wad of paper. We write down our story for 2 days, and he goes,
Rips it up.
and he hands us another piece of paper. And he goes, I really want to hear about that story. I'm like, you just destroyed it, And then I got it. Again, did you get it? How many times are you going to tell it? Well, maybe if you write it a couple hundred times,
Even writing the book Eyewitness that Dan wrote, Eyewitness, the Shocking Insider's Story of Jehovah's Witnesses. We didn't want that title, but in our New York Arbor book, they insisted on it. And it was a shocking story. So it was certainly not drama like a lie, but it was very traumatic story. But when he got done writing it, it was killer to get it done. Dan was like practically sweating blood. I kid you not, nightmares, everything, writing it. But we had to do it because we were in contract, or we'd lose the contract, lose all our money that we spent to hire this wonderful lady that helped us to get it written. And but when he was all done, I'm telling you, it was like a big weight lifted off. It's like you got it out to the whole world, and now it's gone, done. Now I'm ready to move on. And somehow it was a catharsis. Yeah.
I have something to interject here. So we're asking about this people's story, and the competition of my story is worse than yours. You know what? There is not a shortage of bad stories that people are coming out, and they have. Now, a solution is to heal. Write your story, but don't publish it. Write it for yourself. And you may cry. And I mean, I did. When I wrote my story, I cried. It was the difficult thing that I could ever do, because I laid down my soul.
Yes.
And then I looked at it. I even submitted it. And after I submitted my story, I went into the bathroom and I threw up.
Oh, wow.
I can't do this. I did it for me, but that was the point. I did it for me. And now it's out, and I shelved it. But it was the best thing I did, was write it. Now, some people will take it a little bit further. They'll take the story and they'll do what the shamans or the Indians do. And they'll take that paper and they'll burn it.
I like that.
They'll burn the story, and they'll do a ceremony where the story goes out to the universe.
I like that a lot, Kerry.
It's really good.
Like that a lot.
my uncle, when he passed away, we all wrote something to him, and we all put it in a bucket, and we lit it on fire, and we burned all our thoughts back to the universe, to my uncle who passed away. And I likened that when I wrote my story. I went, what a great aspect if someone wants to release their story, write their horrible thoughts down, or whatever happened to them, and then burn it as their own sacred ceremony so that they can move on and heal.
I love that. I
I
love
love
that.
that. I think that happened one time in I went to what they call a burning bowl ceremony. You probably heard of them.
Yeah, we've been
Where everybody
so
gives you
long.
flash paper, little square sheets, and you write your
Dream,
whatever it is you want to get
goal.
rid of. I don't want to worry about money anymore. I don't want to,
Yeah, they have different
And then
ceremonies.
they had a bowl with some alcohol and they lit it. And so everybody got in line at the church and they threw it in there and it sparked and flashed. And I actually did one of those the other day in the fireplace. We did a little short, little reel on Facebook, throwing in there, But I like that idea because it's interesting you said that, Kerry Kaye, because we did a campaign to put our book out there, and it went out there. It got some exposure, but we really didn't promote it. But it was interesting. Several people read it, and would call us and say, "Would you come to this little gathering?" We had her dad read it. I don't know how many times.
Yeah, over and over.
And he just asked us for a dozen books, but we've never really promoted it. None of my books, any of them. Surrender, Key to the Kingdom Within, I didn't promote it. Divine Order of Alchemy, The Ancient Secret to Union with God, Ye Are Gods, from Prodigal Son to Divine Union. I don't know that they're for anybody, but me. You know what I
I
mean?
don't know. I mean, the few people who have read them, unbelievable.
Yeah,
but
that
they're life
surrender book.
changing.
They really changed.
No, eyewitness too. We
Yeah.
had so
Oh,
many
yeah.
accounts. They say many people said I read it more than once. Like, who reads a book more than once? So my dad really got a lot of healing out of it. My dad was raised in Worldwide Church of God like me, and then he got into Seventh-day Adventism. But somehow Dan's process of getting out of the Jehovah's Witnesses and how God let him out, and the steps in the process of getting free, it is very inspiring, and it shows how God works and that He's real, and that's what's so good about the book. You just know God's real, so real. And it's really a good book, actually.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a downer, but it's actually incredible and
Good.
very inspirational. So
Yep.
anyway, and then the other one, another lady, redheaded people. To me, redheaded people are super straight from the hip. They don't mince words. They come from the heart. They got some fire in them. And we had several redheaded people say, that book changed my life. And one of them said, Angela, you need to read that book 2 or 3 times until you get it. It's like, lady, then you realize that's kind of insulting. I don't believe you're saying that. Anyway, but yeah, they can be helpful, but sometimes you're right. We just need to write them and burn them. It's like putting the past behind you.
Yeah.
I'm letting the past be burned out. I'm going to start a fresh chapter. And, that's the thing. I was at the rescue mission the other night, and I was just saying that, there does come that time when you have this decision to make. I'm 45 years old. And my life is just crashed and burned, and it's pretty well burnt down, like a building just got done getting burnt down. And now what? I can either become the victim and just bemoan it forever and think, no, my life's never going to be the same. I'm ruined. My life's done. And I'm just going to finish out my years and it's over. And I'm a loser. And oh my God, all this kind of stuff. Or I can take the other pill and I can say, okay, I'll start over. I will. I'm willing, Lord. I'm willing to start over. And boy, has that been rewarding for me. I chose that pill. And that's the life that I know. I did lose everything from the past, which, in a way you feel like that would be a bad thing, but it really hasn't been a bad thing. It's just been plain old different. And I've learned so much. And I'm a different kind of person. Instead of being self-righteous B, I more compassionate, I'm humble. I'm honest, I don't know. I'm different. I'm different.
Yep.
So I'm glad for it. But we do have choices to make every day. We have a choice, and we can say, I don't want to do that. And you're allowed to do that. Or I am willing to do that. And it's a big, huge change. And and even the beginning start out of it, once you make your mind up about that, is very glorious and really dramatic. Even it's like God was waiting for you to say it. Yes, Lord, I'll start again. Okay, let's do it. What are we going to learn now? or not. It's always our choice,
Every day is a new day too.
It is. And all this now moment, right?
Mhm.
Now
The
moment.
now moment.
Wonderful, wonderful now
For
moment.
yourself today, not what did I miss out on
Yeah.
today?
Yeah. And if you think of, if you
So,
think,
and yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest struggles for people who are coming out because they feel so cheated. However, that is also a mindset. You can get bitter, get over it. The bitterness, it happened to a lot of people, but changing your mindset on it, you can also think, okay, now what did they do for me? How can I use that situation
Mm,
into a positive?
like that a lot, Kerry Kaye. Dan's got saying he loves so much, and it's like, and now it finally got into me, finally, thank God. But it's like, this life and the things that are happening in it are being done for me and not to me. So each challenge, each situation is for my opportunity, for my growth, or I can let it be another, add on to my story. But if I believe it's for me, then okay, what can I learn from it then? And thank you, Lord, for it, even though it was hard and it was for me, it's not life against me. And this is being done to me, like this is so unfair. Why is God doing this to me? And why is everyone doing this to me? And so it's being done to me. And justice, instead of God allowing this to happen for me, for my growth, for my spiritual growth, and overcoming hatred, and I don't know, whatever it is that you're trying to overcome. Every situation, every moment is an opportunity for okay, thank you for this. Thank you. It's for me. It's for me. It's not against me. I'm not going there. Not going negative. No, it's for me. Okay, got it. Okay, I'm going here. Yeah.
The rest is just for materialism or your ego.
Yeah.
When you're looking at, and it's really hard to like look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, that is for my own fame or for my own ego, stoke my own ego because I got a title or such. But you miss the point then. It's when you're living for the now and what you learned from your experiences, then you really got a handle on what we're really here for. And you're going to lose the anxiety, because isn't that what Jesus said? The anxieties of life. He even had the example of the birds of the field, that's there for a reason. The cares of, the lilies of the field and the birds of the heavens, what they would precede me is the scripture, right? But this material, the physical world is so ego driven. It's okay to accomplish things, and that's good, that's good. But if you got the mindset that I will never be this or that because this and this happened to me, you're missing the point.
yes,
you have the lesson.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for people to look themselves in the mirror and say, okay, I need to change my own mindset. But the moment they do that, they will have a release, an emotional release of, okay, I really don't have to worry about things because everything is really happening for me. And it's very freeing. And you then tap into that pureness, that pure love that's right there in front of your face and right within you, the God power.
Yes.
Of the heart.
And that's what happened to me. After all those years of studying, I had 22 years of studying, really serious studying, a lot of stuff. And there came a point where I realized that learning, like I enjoyed learning. And then there was a point where it's like, oh my God, I could study anything forever, right? You could study Kabbalah, you could study Rosicrucian, you could study, I know stuff about Rosicrucian. Have you ever heard of the Vesic Institute? You've heard of the Vesic Institute?
Wow.
They've got a Rosicrucian course there that's amazing. They said it's the real, this guy's real intelligent who teaches it. But I started studying a lot of this stuff, And a lot of people were like, like I said, what do you believe? And I said, well, if I tell you what I believe and you tell me what you believe, are we going to argue? Is that what we're doing? We're going to pull out our sword? I don't operate like that, because I see life like a big school now. I really do. It's like, I learned this, it doesn't mean I'm in this grade. A guy used this illustration one time. He said, the guy that sees the grass, there's a hill like this. And he said, the guy that sees the grass, is he wrong? He said, no, the guy who sees the grass isn't wrong. He sees grass. But then there's a guy that sees the treetops. And he says, well, I see treetops and I see all this stuff up here and I see rooftops. And is he wrong? He said, no, he's right too. But what about the guy that sees the heavenlies? What about the guy that sees fifth dimensionally, sixth dimensionally, seventh? It's like they're all right. They're not wrong. If you put somebody on a lie detector and he says, by God, God's name is Jehovah, it would ring true, because that's what he knows, right? Based on what he's been told, based on his experience. So
when somebody else says it's this, it's that, whatever other name, and it's same thing. It proves true. It's actual truth.
Yeah. So it keeps getting bigger. The school keeps getting bigger, and it's almost like learning becomes wormholes. Like you can go forever in a wormhole. There's Kabbalah that's identical to Christianity. I can give illustrations and show you. It's identical. It's the same thing. And
there's a deeper knowledge within the Kabbalah for esoteric Christianity. So yeah.
Yes.
Totally correct.
I'm just realizing that are we at an hour? Okay,
yeah. But I just want to say,
we got an hour? Okay.
Yeah, we are.
Knowing goes on forever. You can know and learn and learn and learn. And I realize I don't know nothing. I mean, honestly, I'm not saying that in any false humility. I don't know nothing. On these scales, it goes on and on. I just see, it's like Dr. Hawkins said, everybody's a talking head from a different level of consciousness. And that's what we are. When I was a witness, I talk witness. When I was a whatever, I talked that. I talked, metaphysics when I was into the science of mind and unity, and so I just used the language, and none of it was wrong. But what I did for me was I allowed myself to come to a conclusion. Where I was at was a means to an end, and that was okay. And then I was ready to move on, and that's what they call death, resurrection, and ascension, where you die to sort of that this is the absolute truth, if you will, and you go in the tomb, if you will, and then you come out with new understanding and you ascend into new understanding, and it's a pattern. Death, resurrection, and ascension is a pattern.
Like dying 1,000
like
deaths,
dying to the witnesses, then coming into the science of mind or whatever, and you're illumined. You're like, I got it. This is it. Life is a 5-part mind treatment. I can do mind treatments. It makes perfect sense, and then that kind of fades and comes to its end. It's a means to an end. And so I've had to learn, just let things come to a means of an end. And by understanding that, the Christian is going to be a Christian, the witnesses are going to be a witness until that doesn't serve them anymore. And it's really none of my business. It really isn't, because I was in it 40 years. I was pushing that idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool not to judge, just to say that's it. It's like you're not judging them, but you're just saying that's where they're seeing from. They're seeing from that level of awareness. It's not bad. It's just they see the grass. I see a little bit bigger picture, but somebody else sees a much bigger picture than me, and somebody sees a much bigger picture. And so the picture gets bigger. So anyway, for me, I actually stopped reading for quite a while and stopped. I couldn't even pick up a book, because I said to myself, what the hell does this have to do with love? Knowing this, what does it have to do with love? I mean, I was learning some things about love. What's it have to do about acceptance? And what's it have to do about, and then I said, oh my God, those are the fruits of the spiritual world. That's where I want to move into. We all breathe the same air. We all drink the same water. We all sit under the same sun. We're all one at one level. We're all the same. We didn't bring ourselves here alone. We were immaculately conceived by something to be here at this time for a particular reason. So it's just beautiful to move out of that judgment. You just accept where everybody's at. You know what I mean?
Even not judging your own self for having to change your mind so many times. We all do it. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes we change our minds about all kinds of things. How we child rear, how we feel about that. How we feel. I can go on lots of subjects. How do we just don't feel the same way about the same subject anymore? And so we just have to go with that. It's like a flow. We don't have guilt over it. We don't have to think, well, I was wrong back then. Oh, was I so wrong? No, you learned, and then, like you said, it comes to its end, and then you move on, and you gained, and you just take what you wanted, and you leave the rest behind. There's always good in everything, so you're not
Mhm.
wasting anything. That's the beauty. Any last thoughts, Kerry
Any
Kaye?
final thoughts?
I'll leave with the final thought. My grandmother used to say, she said, Carrie, just let them go on their merry way.
That's
I
good.
like that. It's pretty
Yeah.
simple, you know?
And it was very simple, and she was completely correct, because they will learn things in their own time. And she said, just be patient, just let them go on their merry way.
I
That's
like
right.
that a lot. You know, this
And
in New York,
very wise woman.
very wise.
Yes.
Sharon from New York, she's been on the show 6 Screens of the Watchtower before, and she has some children, and she's been praying for them forever and ever and ever. And finally, she said she really, really prayed really hard, and all of a sudden, boom, one of her daughters got free, and she got out of the witnesses. You know, and I thought, man, you know, it's like. But you know, it doesn't always work that way for everybody. It just doesn't. But we can all pray and pray and pray and pray and pray. But for her, that worked out so beautifully and absolutely how wonderful. I don't know why I was bringing that up. But for her, what a dream come true. You know, I don't know why I decided to end
It's
up
okay.
bringing that.
It's
I had a
okay.
reason for bringing that up. I really did. But anyway, that is a beautiful thing when things go our way that way and people get it and lights come on and they get it. But we don't all get that opportunity. We can do the best we can, but sometimes prayers really do help, I guess. You know, they really, really do. But it's up to that person, and we can't force that. We can't always have our way, and we may not have our way in this life with that certain loved one that we would like to see get it. Dan didn't mom or his brother, dad.
Yeah. I think that, you know, everybody has to live their own life, and, you know, for those who choose that type of a lifestyle, you know, that's for them. And we have to accept that, even though if it's a family member that you don't have contact with anymore, but that, you know, you have to understand that those are their wishes.
That's
And
right.
that's their journey. And as painful as it is, it's a lesson for us to rise above and say, okay, what lesson am I learning from this? And sometimes, like, these discussions where some of us will come together and talk, it's very helpful for those who are going through it, because they can gain strength and say, okay, they've gone through it too. Look, you know, and how did they overcome it? So I really appreciate you guys having me come on.
Yes, thank you, Kerry Kaye, so much. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
We
appreciate
appreciate
it.
all your thoughts and everything. And it's so nice to have good examples of people that have been able to rise up and out of the sadness and the despair and the depression and all these things, and rising out of victimhood. I'd hate to say this, but this woman said to me one time, she says, Angela, do you understand that you're a victim? And I went, oh my gosh, I don't believe. Beautiful blonde woman, and smart. And her husband was going through such a hard time she'd been dealing with for a very long time, at tremendous migraines that seemed to never end. It was this nightmare. And yet she was able to see clearly that I was a victim. She was in a terrible situation, been going on for months and months and months and months. And here I was, and she's telling me in her terrible situation that I'm a victim. And I just like, oh my God. So instead of being, all offended, I was shocked. But I'm like, I started looking at it and seeing, am I a victim? And just really realistically look at it. And sure enough, I realized just bit by bit, God showed me, yep, you're a victim. You're a victim. You're acting like a victim. And it's subtle, it's hidden, but it was there very clearly. And so I began the process of letting it go. And it doesn't happen overnight. I wish it didn't. It didn't. Maybe if I had a near-death experience, but sometimes those things take time. But it did. At least I faced it. Now it's painful. But anyway, so well, thank you,
All
Kerry
right,
Kaye.
guys. Thank you. We're just
Thank you
throwing
so
all this
much.
stuff out in the middle. Take what you need.
Yeah,
do the
there you
rest.
go.
But we just having our chat here and hope you got something out of it. If you like the video, pass it on. And we appreciate you watching. And thank you so much, Kerry Kaye. We always
Thank you,
enjoy
Kerry.
talking with you.
Thank you. I know it's
All
all over
right.
the place, guys. Sorry about that.
No, it's the
We
way
love
it
you.
is.
Okay.
All
That's
right.
great. Thank you. That was wonderful to be here. Thank you again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Good night.